Question number 6. How do the nationalists interpret Lord Curzon's motive of partition of Bengal? Answer. Bengal was the nerve center of Indian nationalism. At that time, thus the British wanted to strike at the roots of Bengali nationalism. Point number 2. The real motive was to break the growing solidarity of Bengali nationalism. Point number 3. According to the nationalists, Lord Curzon desired to crush the new spirit by dividing the politically advanced communities through the policy of divide and rule to drive a wedge between the Hindus and Muslims. Point number 4. To demonstrate the strength of the British Raj. Question number 7. How did imperialism lead to the First World War? Answer. Britain and France occupied major areas of Asia and Africa colonies. When Germany entered the race for establishing colonies, Britain and France made a secret agreement in which: point number 1. Britain would have political control over Egypt and France. Point number 2. Would have political control of Morocco. Point number 3. French claim over Morocco was opposed by Germany and said to uphold the independence of Morocco and a sultan. Germany tried to force her opinion on France by sending a gunboat, Panther, at port of Agadir, but the war was averted by mediation of America. Question number 8. Explain the following. Judicial review. Judicial review is defined as the power of the Supreme Court to examine the laws passed by the central legislature on the state legislature and the orders issued by the executive official to find whether or not they are permitted by the Constitution. If the court finds that the laws of the orders violate the provision of the Constitution, then it can declare them null and void. Second point, writ. Writ is a legal instrument to enforce obedience to the orders of a court. There are 5 types of writs: writ of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition. Writ of quo warranto, certiorari. Next question, question number 9. Mention any 2 factors which led to the civil disobedience movement. Answer 9. All the 7 members of the Simon Commission were British, which undermined the power and prestige of the Indian leaders. Point number 2. The Lahore session of the Congress presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, in which 3 resolutions were passed. Point number 1. Resolution of Purna Swaraj if Dominion status is not given till 31st December 1929. Resolution to boycott the Round Table Conference to be held in London. Resolution to start the civil disobedience movement. Question number 10. Mention the cases in which the Supreme Court enjoys original jurisdiction. Question number 1. Dispute between central government and the state government. Dispute between 2 or more state government. Dispute between central government and 1 or 2 state on one side and 2 or more state on the other side. Cases involving the interpretation of the Constitution. Supreme Court in certain suits for the enforcement of fundamental rights in case if they are being violated. Next question, question number 11. What was Lord Curzon's argument in favor of the partition of Bengal? Answer. The government regarded the size of the province of Bengal to be too large to be properly administered by a single provincial government. Point number 2. The argument advanced in the favor of partition that it would improve the administration of both the provinces. Number 1, Bengal. Number 2, East Bengal and Assam. Point number 2. The Secretary to the Government of India noted that the government was in favor of bringing all the Odia speaking people under the administration of Bengal. Question number 12. With reference to the powers and function of the Supreme Court, explain the term advisory jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. Answer. The President may obtain the opinion of the Supreme Court on the question of law or fact which is the public importance. The Supreme Court, point number 2. The Supreme Court is not bound to express any opinion on the question as submitted to it. The advisory opinion of the Supreme Court is not binding on the President. Question number 13. Mention the causes of unhappiness of Indian artisans and craftsmen. Answer. An act was passed in 1720 which provided the use of Indian handicrafts such as Indian silk and calicos in England. Heavy duties, about 70 to 80%, were imposed on goods exported to England from India. Third point, British goods were imported into India at normal duty. Fourth point, the police of fair trade was responsible for the destruction of Indian handicrafts. Fifth number, thus the export of Indian goods to England stopped, which made the artisans and craftsmen jobless. Question number 14. How did the Sarajevo crisis in 1914 lead to World War I? Answer. Number one point, the Archduke Francis Ferdinand, the Crown Prince of Austria, and his wife Sophie visited Sarajevo, the capital city of Bosnia. Second point, the Austrian was a 19-year-old Bosnian, Gavrilo Princip, the first student revolutionary to change the course of history of Europe. Third point, the assassination had been planned in Serbia by a secret society of patriotic terrorists called Black Hand. Fourth point, after the assassination of the Prince, Serbia was blamed by Austria-Hungary for the assassination of the prince. Fifth point, Austria-Hungary sent a very steep ultimatum containing 11 demands to Serbia. Sixth point, most of the demands of the ultimatum was accepted by Serbia except of a few demands which she refused to accept on the ground that they involved the violation of his sovereignty. Seventh point, Austria-Hungary was provoked by Germany that Austria should accept to fulfill all the demands of the ultimatum, else the war would be declared on Serbia. Provided Serbia didn't fulfill the demands in the time limit, the war was declared on Serbia on Austria-Hungary on 28 July 1914. थैंक यू. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में आप फिर क्वेश्चन नंबर 15 से स्टार्ट